Welcome back to r/LegalAdvice, where people ask questions, get advice, and we get satisfaction. If you are new to my channel, please don't forget to subscribe to join our amazing community, and without any further ado, let's dive right into the stories. And the first one is titled, Landlocked neighbors are advertising that the property they are selling has an easement that it doesn't have through our land, in Georgia. I hope this story is not too long, but I'm not sure what details are necessary. I have separated the backstory and the question just in case the backstory is not necessary. Backstory: I live with my family on about 50 acres of property in Georgia. My great-grandfather left this property to my father when he died. All in all, it has been in the family for about 35 years. He bought the land in small increments. By doing this, he ended up buying most of the land surrounding someone else's land. He made the land much better by building a road, paying for power lines to be put in, building a house on the property, etc. The landlocked land was completely empty. My great-grandfather offered to sell an easement to the owner of the other property several times, as well as give him access to the power lines, and well, he had commissioned for well under market value. The guy never used the land though and declined. We never had an issue with him, but we have always had issues with his kids trying to trespass on our property to get to theirs. We've been living on it for about 10 years. It sat empty for about 10 years before that, with family just coming to take care of the land and the house on the weekends. We were constantly catching the kids going up to the property to smoke, drink, and throw parties. We have several no trespassing signs that they would just ignore. We have made several calls to the police about them. The question: the original owner has since passed and the kids are trying to sell the property. We are constantly having people drive up our road. Our driveway is about half a mile long to go look at the property. We tell each one that we catch that there is no easement and that they are on private property. Each one tells us that the seller is advertising that there is an easement. What can we do about this? I want to reiterate that we tried selling this family an easement, but they refused to buy one, and now they are advertising that they have one, and people. Added, a lot of people are mentioning easement of necessity. If part of their land is landlocked by someone else's land, this part of the land being closer to a road, they would have to get the easement on that land, right? Edit number 2, someone asked for a picture explaining the land. I made this. It is not great. And here the little drawing where you can see OP's property and the property of the third party. And a well-known person in the comments said, if you are confident there really isn't an easement, put up a locked gate or some other barrier across the alleged access. If you want to be particularly direct, put a sign on the gate to the effect that there is no access to address of your neighbor's property through your land and that trespassers will be prosecuted. Then call the cops if people enter your land to access your neighbor's property anyways. If you have any doubt, a real estate attorney can give you an opinion based on your title. However, the owner of a landlocked property is very likely to be able to force an easement through one of the neighboring lots, generally along the most direct available route to a road. And another person said, if you are confident, and probably your level of confidence should include a formal title search by an attorney, you can obstruct any access point they are using on your property with a gate or other barricade, clear signage stating no trespassing, and then as a follow-up you should send a certified letter to the agent listing the property for sale as well as the property owners you can identify, informing them that the advertised access easement does not exist. And guys, I'm wondering, have you ever been involved in any land/property disputes similar to this one? If you have, let us know in the comments. And the next one is an update to the landlocked neighbors story. Hey guys, I have a minor update for you. First, I wanted to thank you all for the help you provided the other day. We are adding the signs, game cameras and updating the fence. My dad went and got a copy of the deeds from our property and the landlocked property. It turns out that the landlocked property has an easement from the third party property I showed in my last post. He does not have one through our property. The seller of the landlocked property is telling people it is through our property though because we have a road and the other one does not. We have informed the person who we believe will buy it and he was hostile, but he understood he had no grounds to use our property. I am hoping this will be the end of it. Unfortunately guys, there are quite a few more updates to go, so no, this is not the end of it. Next update to the landlocked neighbor's story. I am so sorry, I really did not think I would have to update this again so soon. We were leaving to go out tonight and we saw the potential buyer on our property with his real estate attorney. We calmly pointed out we had shown them that they did not have an easement, they were extremely hostile, and yelled at us that we could not ask them to leave because they had an easement. We reminded them that the easement was from the other property and not ours. The buyer is a real estate developer and he told us he's going to hire a friend of his who does land surveys to come out tomorrow to say that the easement does come from our property. I have no idea how he plans to do it. Honestly, the guy was hard to understand. Should we hire our own surveyor? Is there any way we can prove his surveyor is biased? What else should we be concerned about? And I gotta say guys, since this is an older legal advice story, what I really enjoy about these older stories is that back then legal advice still allowed comments on update posts. So here we go. A person in the comments said, "Call the cops. From this point on, every time they trespass on your property, call the cops. They've been told there's no access via your property and continue to trespass. This is a criminal matter now." Also, it would be advised to get camera/trail cams to capture evidence of said trespassing. This will make enforcement and penalties for said trespassing much easier to levy in the long run. Lastly, as recommended in the first thread, I would look into fortifying the gate/access that they are using on your property so that they cannot access any longer. Edit, it would be wise to have your own survey done for confirmation of your property lines and confirmation of no easement. Update number 3 to the landlocked neighbor's story. I wanted to thank everyone for all of the help. This should be the last update. We put up security cameras in several places throughout the property and re-secured the gate. The surveyors that the real estate developer hired admitted they had no easement through our land and wrote that in his report. The owner is still trying to use our driveway, but the gate has stopped him and the cameras have caught him each time he has tried. Hopefully this is all over. And by the way guys, if you have watched until here, I would really appreciate it if you could take 2 seconds to subscribe to the channel, because we are really close to 29,000 aka 30,000 subscribers, and it would be awesome if we could reach that soon. Thank you so much for your support, and now let's move on to the next story. This one is titled, "Neighbor has been dumping buckets of solid human waste next to the property line for years." For context, I live just outside of city limits in a very large city in Alaska. I have an outhouse which is common here. I bought the property 3 years ago and only discovered what I have dubbed the crap lagoon last fall due to my new puppy escaping and frolicking in it. Yes, I died inside. Details on the crap lagoon: it is large, there are old buckets surrounding it, he never got around to tipping. It is dotted with bits of toilet paper, it might be on my property line/on my property. I have not gone back to check due to being terrified and disgusted. I will be doing that this weekend. I have been in contact with my state and local borough government. The state acknowledges that this is a public health risk and is illegal, and also has told me that they lack the resources to enforce their own laws. The borough has informed me that they cannot do much about private property if it concerns less than 1,000 square feet of land. They advised me to speak to the property owner directly or contact a lawyer. The property owner is over the age of 60 and a disabled veteran. I know this because of tax breaks he gets on his land. That information is on a public database. He has taken recently to riding his ATV up and down the sidewalk while wearing an old World War II army helmet and idling for periods of time in front of my house and staring at me/my house. I am certain he's not of sound mind and I will not be speaking to him directly. There is a creek that runs through both of our properties. This crap lagoon is almost certainly poisoning the water. I am unfortunately downstream. The neighbor has around 24 junk cars in his yard. I just sent another email to the borough code enforcer informing them of the cars and pleading them to enforce their laws and help me. We will see what they say. This weekend I'm going to have 2 friends help me stake out the property lines, even though I am scared. I'm not rich, I can barely afford the mortgage and property tax. It would take me a while to build a fence, especially one that would keep my dog out of that lagoon. If the borough cannot help me, I guess my only option is to try and scrape together the money for a lawyer. If the state and borough refuse to help, I am seriously considering contacting the local newspaper or publishing the email chain online in order to shame the government into action. Is this a terrible idea? This is intolerable. This afternoon he dumped another bucket. I can hear the splashing from my porch and the smell is so bad. I cannot be outside without dry heaving. Help. Edit, thank you all so much for the helpful ideas. This weekend when I cut back the brush and trees from the property line and spray paint it on the ground, I will take a lot of pictures of the site. In the past I looked into getting a trail camera set up for proof that this is happening and decided it was beyond my means. But if it is the difference between living next to a crap lagoon and being able to breathe the air in my own backyard, I will fork out the money. I love Alaska because Alaskans generally believe in keeping the government out of people's private life and of their private property, but this is too much. I'm looking into how to pass a resolution in the borough government changing the laws regarding the dumping of human waste on private property. Update, I contacted the Alaska Department of Environmental Conservation, Division of Water regarding a wastewater disposal issue. The automatic email reply popped up in the email thread from last fall. I had forgotten that I had already contacted them and they told me that they don't have the manpower or resources to deal with this issue. The guy at the local code enforcement office told me the same thing and also told me that the Alaska DEC has not had any positive changes regarding their ability to enforce their own laws. Is this the point that I contact elected officials about this? I'm apparently living in a state where it is legal to crap all over your own backyard. I should add that we are a 10-minute walk down the road from a public elementary school. Should I contact the local paper in an attempt to force change and shame the guy and become the crap lagoon neighbor lady in our town for the rest of forever? And users in the comments said you should take pictures, go back to the borough enforcement office and ask again with pictures. If they say they are unwilling to help, get the name of the individual who turns you down. Find out the name of your elected representative in borough government. Take the pictures to her, ask what she can do to get the office to enforce health and safety laws. Unfortunately guys, there have been no further updates to this story, but I hope you don't mind me reading it anyway because I just thought it was too interesting not to read it. And the last one is titled, Nebraska, I just closed on a new house. Sellers allege that I owe a portion of their $990 security system cancellation fee because I did not take over their contract, threatening small claims court. I closed on the 14th. Sellers are alleging that the security system goes with the house and so does the security system contract. The disclosure states security system stays but does not mention the $50 per month contract with 4 years remaining. I was never made aware of any of this information until after closing when the seller contacted me via an abrasive and frankly unhinged email. By looking me and my fiance's emails up via social media, I assume this is the only personal info I have available on social media. By the way guys, just a quick tip, really bad idea, you should never publicly show your emails on social media. We promptly blocked her without replying and notified our agent and the seller's agent that she was threatening to take us to small claims court if we did not pay $990 for not taking over the security system contract. Our agent advised not to respond and to get our personal security system we brought with us from old house installed as soon as possible and to change all locks. The seller's agent says this is a miscommunication on all parts and says we should all 4 parties split the bill, roughly $250 each. I have bought houses before that had a security system installed and never even considered taking over the seller's contract. This discussion never occurred prior to closing. The sellers assumed we would proactively call their company and get it switched over. I trust that if my realtor was aware prior to closing, she would have informed me. Per the last correspondence with the seller's agent, if my agent and I do not each contribute $250, they have all of the paperwork together to take us to small claims court. The response deadline is Monday, September 24th. I apologize if neglected any relevant information. I am typing this intermittently while at work. I deeply appreciate any insight if the sellers have a valid claim against us. Thank you. Edit/update, our realtor made it clear we were not going to respond. She received an email stating the sellers have filed to take us to small claims for the $990 contract fee, her travel expenses to get to court costs, and all wages lost from her having to take us to court. She approximates this as $1,350 total. After reading through your excellent replies, this is mostly just a major inconvenience at this point. And a user in the comments said, unless something in your closing document stated that you will be taking over the security contract, then I would suggest they can piss right off. If sued, respond. And another person said, nope, typically those contracts can be transferred by the seller to the new seller's residence for a fee, assuming the provider offers coverage in the area where the seller moved. Otherwise, this is no different than if the seller had gotten a telephone line or TV cable under a 1-year contract and moved before the expiration of the term. Unless you expressly agree to assume the contract from the seller, then you are not liable. Update to the Nebraska story. Thank you to all of the people who commented on the original thread. This was my first time dealing with small claims court, and all of the helpful advice and information really helped set me up for success. So, short story is that the sellers didn't end up taking me to court for roughly $1,400. This was for the total cost of the contract, buyout for their security system, travel expenses since they moved out of state and would need to pay for gas and lodging to come back to sue us, as well as court costs. Small claims court was surprisingly straightforward and informal. I've never been a big talker, but I honestly don't think I was able to say more than 3 words at a time without the plaintiff interrupting me. The judge eventually asked her to please stand in the hallway so I could speak my side fully. She absolutely refused to leave, but did stay quiet for a short minute so I could say that I never agreed to take over her security contract, and there was no documentation to suggest that I did. The judge agreed and ended up ruling in my favor. I thought it was done there, but the plaintiff swiftly appealed the decision, so now we had a new court date early this month with a different judge. During this time, the plaintiff continues to send me hostile emails and voice messages. The seller's broker, their realtor's boss, called me while I was at work to tell me he was very displeased. I filed a formal complaint against his realtor. He told me I was not welcome to pursue any future business with his company, and I assured him the feeling was mutual. The broker said he supports all of his realtors and will not be acting on the complaint in any way. So I went and talked to the major's office about the situation. The major asked me what I wanted out of this, and I showed him the hostile emails from the seller and told him I felt it was the realtor's job to act as an in-between even after the sale was complete. The mayor said he would step in and speak with the broker. This is a fairly small town, they probably already knew each other. I never heard from the seller again after that, thanks mayor. So now it comes time for round 2 in small claims court. The new judge goes through and reads the write-up from round 1 and asks the plaintiff if there's new evidence or information that has not been covered. Long story short, there was not. The judge ended up sustaining the previous ruling in my favor and strongly advised the plaintiff not to appeal unless there is new evidence or information that has not been seen by the court. It's been 5 days and no word on an appeal, so I think it is safe to say that I'm finally done and ready to put this whole ugly thing behind me. Once again, thank you to all of you who helped me on the original thread. I'm very pleased that resources like this community exist. On a final note, gossip, but I got a call from the mayor at 2 AM the night before last because there was a house fire down the street from me. The mayor and I know each other well, so I went to go help the volunteer fire brigade put it out. We got it under control and we were winding down when a deputy from the sheriff's office comes to tell me that the lady who sued me waited around the court building the day of the appeal for the judge to get off and then tried to confront him about the ruling in the courthouse parking lot. I did not really care to hear about it, but it sounds like she's in some pretty deep trouble now. Kind of cathartic. Edit, thank you for all of the very kind and thoughtful messages. To clarify some common questions, the ruling stipulated that the plaintiffs pay all court costs, including my own. Yes, I could probably countersue, but I'm very interested in dealing with the seller and broker as little as possible for the rest of my life. Please don't take this post as a representation of Nebraska. Most people here are actually quite nice. There's a couple rotten apples in every bunch. And guys, unfortunately, we have already reached the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed today's stories, and if you haven't already, please also go to patreon.com/ripeyoutube, where I upload exclusive Reddit videos starting at just $3 a month. This is a great way to support me in case you are interested, and the chance for me to become independent from YouTube revenue. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe and like the video, and I hope to see you again tomorrow.